How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And I'm telling you, folks, there are no known, at this point in time, intercontinental ballistic missiles heading towards the United States that I know of. So we are not going to be reporting that that's happening here tonight. There's no buttons. I have no buttons to push. I have just started the show and taking over the helm, and we are missile free as far as I can tell. So, all right, what we're going to talk about tonight, the reality of the tech giants. They are your big brother. I've been saying this for a long time. I'm going to re-explain this to you a little bit tonight. I want to talk about Martin Luther King and how I believe he was a conservative then. I believe he's conservative now. And or if he was alive, he'd be a conservative, and how the people in the Democratic Party are so far from what Martin Luther King stood for. We'll discuss that. And also I want to talk, I may actually start off with this. something that happened today on the way to Newsmax. So let's get started. This is going to actually make you shiver a little bit and make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. But let's get started. So today I was going to Newsmax, and I hosted with my good buddy Bill Tucker. I call him Trucker Bill, and he was on. We were on for 2 hours, hosting from 5 to 7. That's why I got a little late start today. But interesting thing with what I saw. First off, before we even get started with this, make sure that if you have not shared this on Facebook, share it right now. If you're just joining and then getting out, share it anyway. Help us promote this show. If you're on Twitter, retweet it. Look, it's almost guaranteed that we're being shadow banned, whatever that is. I mean, it's called censorship, and it's called, as David Webb would say, bullshit. Because they put themselves out there as though freedom of speech and stuff. But as we can see from Project Veritas, and I recommend you go and watch these videos from Project Veritas that they've done over the past, or they've released them over the past 3 days about Twitter, and the fact that they are actually out there monitoring every direct message, not your public tweets, just your public tweets, every direct message. They're monitoring it, they're keeping it, they're using it for advertisers, but I would even go so far as to say that they will use that in a scenario like we saw with the FBI agent Strzok and his extramarital lover Page, who was the attorney from the DOJ, and that these social media outlets will use this as their insurance policy if they have to go after people. Look, there's no doubt that they'll do it. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more here in a minute. So I just wanted to say that right off the bat, you need to be mindful of what you're doing on social media. But I do want to talk, I don't know how I got over to that, but today on the way to Newsmax, we're driving through Times Square, and I hate when these cab drivers go through Times Square. Those of you that have my book, you'll know that, and you can look, anyway, get the book, you'll see. Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. Let me put up the scrolling thing here. Let's see here. There it is right there. So the book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, in the very end of the book, and those of you that have read this know that I predict that there's going to be another attack on Times Square. I do give the locations, the dates of the year, not specific date, not like saying the 13th, but the time, the season of the year, and the time of the day when I think the attack will happen. Make sure that you look at that and you take that into account if you're visiting or if you live in New York City. So anyway, the cab driver's driving through New York City. Through Times Square on the way to Newsmax. And this is what I see. All of a sudden, all the traffic starts slowing down. I'm going, great, we're going to be late. And this is what I saw. So if you can see that, let me pull this up just a little bit bigger over my face here. So what you're seeing here is an SUV. And this SUV, it's the blue SUV on there on the side. It's just sitting there. It's parked. The green area that you see right to the left of the SUV, there's just a little green line. Let me move this over here so I can show you, see where my hand is here. Okay, the green line is right here if you're looking at this. That's actually the bike path. They've kind of turned this little thing into a bike path. So he's pulled up onto the bike path right here, and he's parked there. And all the cabs and everybody were having to go around this person. And as we're slowing down and we're getting up there to it, I took a picture of this vehicle. There's 2 people sitting inside of it. And having worked surveillance for many, many years in the FBI, that's not a typical vehicle that we would use in surveillance. And it's not all blacked out like most cop cars are. So from my investigative mind, I don't think that that's a cop car, and I don't think that that is an undercover FBI vehicle. That is a civilian vehicle. It had 2 individuals in the front, 2 males, sitting there. Now, interesting thing, if you look, so right up, if you were to go straight across, you'll see where the next intersection is, around the other side of the Old Navy picture there. Let's see. Right? Right here is the intersection of 44th Street, right? Which means up here is going to be 45th Street, right? If you just kept going, if you kept going that way, you'd get to 45th Street. So across the street from this, on the west side of the street, is where Faisal Shahzad parked his car bomb in 2010 and attempted to blow it up with 250 pounds of explosives at Saturday at about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Would have killed, potentially it could have killed 10,000 people right there. This vehicle was parked, and just down the road again here, and I'm going to put this up here so you can see my hand bobbing around up here. Right down here, about where my hand is, if you were to go straight down, there's a cop at that intersection. It's actually about like right here. And there were cops right up here. Nobody was looking at this vehicle. Nobody realized that it was parked there, and nobody was doing anything about it. They were more concerned with getting the traffic through Times Square, dealing with whatever, talking to each other, and nobody was doing anything about this vehicle. Now, that was less than a block away from where Faisal Shahzad parked, strangely enough, a blue Nissan Pathfinder on the other side of the street in 2010 it was trying to blow up Times Square. So this vehicle's there today. Got New Jersey tags, parked there. Everybody's going around them, honking their horns and everything. No cops saw it. No cops did anything about it. I called 911 instantly. They answered. They asked me what the problem was. I told them. They transferred me to a non-emergency agency. That's what they said. We're going to transfer you to a non-emergency agency. It's like, hold on. Click. Hangs up on me. I call back. They do the same thing. Hangs up on me. Third time I call back. And while I'm talking to the person, we're now on a different street, and there just happens to be a cop right there. And I told the cab driver, it's like, stop for a second. And I tell the officer, a female officer, and she stood there and listened. And again, I'm not trying to bash the officers in the NYPD, but the problem is when you stick them day in and day out in Times Square, they become so complacent that they miss things like this, believe it or not. So I tell this female officer about it, and she says that, or she says, okay, I'll call it in. And then I go to Newsmax. By the time I get there, I get a phone call, and it was 911 calling me back. And they're like, did you have a problem? I was like, yeah, there was a problem. I keep getting transferred to a non-emergency agency when you clearly got something that it could be an imminent threat in Times Square with a vehicle parked there and people having to go around them. And they hung up on me. Next thing you know, I get another phone call from 911 asking me if I called. And I said, yeah, I just talked to somebody a second ago. And they're like, what was your complaint? I'm like, there was a vehicle parked in Times Square, less than a block from where Faisal Shahzad tried to blow up Times Square, and nobody's doing anything about it. They're like, oh, that's been resolved. I'm like, all right, that's like 15 minutes ago. I would hope so. Why am I telling everybody this story? Because this should scare you to death, folks, that this vehicle was allowed to park there for more than even 5 seconds. You should not be able to stop, let alone pull to the side and double park in Times Square like this vehicle was clearly doing. This is a horrendous mistake by the NYPD and by the officers that are in Times Square. Complacency kills. And I don't know if you noticed this right here, but look what's right here, right next. That's a woman and a baby carriage, right? That is a woman, and if you look even closer, if I can somehow zoom this thing in, hold on a second here. You're going to really love this picture. Hold on. I got to pull this out so I can zoom it in. What do we see right over here? You see a cop just over the shoulder of the woman. I don't know. I can't really tell because it's kind of blurry, but it looks like they're on their phone. That may be a cop. I may be wrong about that, but it sure looks like a cop to me. I may be wrong about that. But nonetheless, the cops were all over Times Square. And let me just turn this off because it's getting all big. So the reality is, folks, I was completely disturbed by this to the point where I was actually angry at the response that I was getting when this occurred. So I guess basically the reason I'm bringing this up and to tell you is that you have to be aware. You have to understand you don't have to be a cop. You don't have to be special forces. As I say in the book, Sheep No More, The Art of an Awareness and Attack Survival, which you see right here. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I'm not just saying this to sell the thing. The reality is this book, it took me a lot of years of experience to understand the reality of what, if you see something, say something, to show you exactly what to look for. And that is a perfect example of how even law enforcement can become so complacent that they miss a parked vehicle less than a block away from where a guy tried to commit a terrorist act and blowing up one of the busiest days in Times Square in 2010. It's crazy, folks. That is absolutely crazy. So you need to realize when you see a vehicle there and there's cops all over the place, don't assume that the cops understand what's going on. Again, I was a cop. I was an air marshal. I was an FBI agent. Doesn't mean that I know everything. Doesn't mean I'm going to see everything. If you live in Manhattan, you know this area better than anybody. If you are a tourist, you still know what's normal and what's not. How many of you think that if you were going to go to a federal building and a vehicle just randomly parked out front of the federal building and you work across the street from it, you're not in the federal building, but you see a vehicle out in front of it and some guy nervously walking around it or two people arguing inside of it, is that normal? Probably not. I dare you, go try and park. I don't want to dare you. Don't go do it. But if you go try and park in front of a federal building in an area where you pull up on the sidewalk, you're going to be surrounded you should be surrounded. I know if you go up to a military base and you drive up to the gate and you just pull over to the side and decide to have a chat, they're going to be all over you. That is the level of security that Times Square should have. That vehicle that we see there was big enough to easily put 250 pounds of explosives into. Easily. So I was shocked by this. Shocked. And the American people must realize that you have the ability to determine what is normal and what is not and to react to it. And don't assume that cops are going to know that it's there. If you see something, well, first of all, before you will be able to see it, you have to understand. Look at this. Look at all these people in this corner over here, just on the other side of where the vehicle is, right here, this corner. If I had backed up and where you could really see what was going on, there were tens of thousands of people in Times Square. None of them were reacting. If you know what to look for, you're more likely to see something, and then you have to be willing to make the call. I called 911 3 times. I'm not worried about it. Well, I don't care if they get pissed at me. In fact, I was absolutely rude to them because they kept transferring me to a non-emergency agency, whatever that means, and I was getting hung up on 3 times. Now, somebody just said on Twitter, you can't protect everybody. It is what it is. Well, that's true. The cop can't be on every block in every neighborhood in every city in the United States. But this is probably the most populated area, or first off, it's the biggest bullseye in the world. Times Square, they want to attack this as bad as they did the World Trade Center. And it's populated by more cops than anywhere else in New York City. So how in the world can this not be protected? First off, they should shut this road down. There shouldn't even be vehicles driving through there. This is equivalent of having a large road go straight through the middle of Walt Disney World, right? So this should be shut down, and traffic should be just diverted away and from around this, except for large trucks at 3 in the morning when they got to come and deliver supplies. But overall, the awareness of the cops here should always be heightened. And I don't know if you know this, 2010 wasn't the only bombing that has happened in Times Square. In 2008, and I was not a part of the original investigation, but later on, the squad that I was on inherited that investigation. In 2008, an anarchist rode up on a bicycle, put a pipe bomb in front of the recruiting station there at 3 a.m. in the morning, and blew the whole front of it up. And that was made with black powder, I believe, black powder and an ammo box, an ammo can. They've never found this guy. He was riding on a bicycle. He came from like 37th Street, went all the way up Park Avenue, around and back down. I think it was Park Avenue. I may be wrong. But he rode in the middle of the street where the cameras couldn't quite catch who it was. He walked right up there, put it down, walked off, and then blew the front of that thing up. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, they didn't want to kill anybody. They wanted to send a signal. But still, there were several people in and around Times Square when this person walked up and put this thing down, and nobody even gave it a second look, let alone a vehicle that parks in Times Square like Faisal Shahzad. He got out, ignited it, got out of his truck, and ran away. That guy should never have been able to get out of his vehicle in Times Square. Why would somebody be getting out of their vehicle in Times Square? Times Square should be the one place where you cannot park a vehicle on the road. There should be no vehicles on the road. In fact, I just don't think that these roads leading up to Times Square, these avenues, it should just be closed except to delivery trucks certain times of the day. If you want to go to Times Square, I think that the cab should have some way to go, and there's a round robin that goes around it, and you can get close to it, but you got to walk into Times Square. Doesn't make any sense to have vehicles going through there. So, moral of the story is, cops aren't going to get everything. Cops aren't bad people. They're normal people. And a lot of the times when they're put on a post like Times Square, where there's lots of things to watch and shiny things and beautiful people walking around and criminals and all kinds of stuff, fights, they're going to become complacent. So you either need to rotate those people through, or constantly, every hour they should be changing shifts so that they're on that block and moving around, something to keep people watching. Instead of just standing there, checking your phone, hanging out, directing traffic, you should be looking for at least vehicles parked. At least that. And then anybody who's walking in and through there on a daily basis should realize this stuff, and you should put your phone down if you got to walk through there to go to the train. You should never have your phone up inside your face when you walk through there. You should have it down in your purse, in your pocket, ready to go, and you should be monitoring everything that's going on. That's the way that these things should occur. That's the awareness level that people should have when they go through there, because I can guarantee you, folks, mark my word for it, someone is either going to shoot up Times Square, they're either going to stab a bunch of people, run over them with a truck, and then subsequent shootings and stabbings, or there's going to be another bomb attack. Guarantee it. I can guarantee that is going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And nothing is being done to mitigate that circumstance by the NYPD or by the city of New York. Boom. Let's go to, and look, quite frankly, if you're on the job and you want to talk, you want to discuss this, I'd be more than willing to give you the mic. Or if you used to be on the job and you can come on the show and talk about this all you want. But I don't want one of these stupid tweets or nonsensical comments that people are making, saying, like Gagliano coming on Twitter again saying, I'm here with a decorated FBI agent. We think this is terrible what you're saying. Listen, I'm not interested in what you're selling, because I'm selling truth. And the reality is, what happened today is the second time I've seen this in the 13 years that I lived here. Once before, when I was on the job, a guy was literally working on a Nissan car less than a block from where Mayor Bloomberg was speaking, and the entire Hercules team was out there, long guns, body armor, dogs, everything, and yet this guy was underneath the hood of his car working on it right there in Times Square. So this is the second time I've seen this in 13 years. It's just a matter of time, folks. And I don't care if you were on the job for 20, 30, 40 years, there's no way that you can say that this is an acceptable mistake or that this is not the cause of complacency or bad policies. It's a result of both bad policies and complacency on the part of the city, the PD as a whole, and the officers that work in and around Times Square. And I'm sorry, I'm a supporter of cops. I was a cop, but I don't believe in tiptoeing around nonsense that's going to get innocent people killed. I don't believe in it. So you can say whatever you want, but this is the truth. So let's go to the A block, and we're going to talk about some other truths that keep getting bent here. We're going to talk about. We'll end with Martin Luther King. Let's go to talk about tech giants, and this is another thing. You're the one that's being complacent this time. Let's go to the A block. Okay, so I'm watching a video somebody just sent me, and I'm glad they sent this because I just heard about this today, and this was in Times Square, and I'm going to hold the video up to you so you can see this. It's the first time I've seen this. The guy should have been shot and killed when this happened. I don't know if they caught him or not, so everybody can tell me whether it All right, here you go. Let me see. If you know, I don't know the history of this story, but I'm going to actually. You know what? Let me put it up on my computer. This is another. I'm sorry, I should have already looked at this, but I was. It just got sent to me by an officer. No names, but I'm going to. Let me add that. Let me put this up here. Let's see here. Stand by one second. You're going to want to see this. This is the same exact place that I was just talking about. That's the recruiting station right there to the big American flag. Right there is where a bomb happened before. Look at this. Guy should have been shot right there.
Shit!
It's the first time I've seen this.
Yo, y'all just saw that live, son! Y'all just saw that live!
Wow. See, if they had scooters, they'd be zipping down there.
Oh, they got guns drawn.
I never haven't seen this at all. I'd like to know who's filming this, running with the cops, because that would bother me if I was a cop and saw this.
He just came around. Yo, my son just swipe all these cars. That nigga gone. That nigga gone, son. What? What? He gone. He made it out.
If they caught him or not. Who, the person who sent this to me.
Holy shit!
I guess you're watching. Let me know.
Yo, I think he just swipe all these cars out this bitch.
Again, I can't hear what this is saying. So.
Huh? What?
I can't hear what's going on.
No, come here. This Mercedes is going on.
All right, so that look, this stuff can't be allowed, folks. They got to get rid of these cars out of Times Square. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Let me see what the end of this looks like. I'll play it myself. And I got the video right here. No, that was it. That was the end of it. So I don't know. The person that sent this to me, let me know, or if you're another cop, somebody, let me know if they caught them, because I I haven't seen this one way or the other. Oh, it looks like Facebook just pulled down the video because I played that. Freaking Facebook. All right, so let's do this. Stand by, Twitter, if you're on. Same thing happened the other day. You can't play anything on here without them pulling it down. Let's see here. Hold on one second here. All right. Oh, let me guess. Viral Hog. Viral Hog is the same idiots who were constantly they constantly harass this show. Viral Hog is the same one that was making the complaints before because they said I stole the sound of the wind off of one of their videos, which was not the case. And so now I wish I'd have known. I'm sorry, it's not your fault. The person that sent this to me, not your fault. Hold on, let me go back up here on Facebook and start this over again. Hold on one second here. Now I got to start this all over. Stand by. I'm not gonna get off of the other ones. Let's see here. All right. One second, guys. Men and women, folks, children of all ages. Let's see here. All right, let's see if Facebook's comes back up. Stand by. Well, we were having great numbers there for a minute. We're still up on Twitter. We're still up on Facebook. I mean, on YouTube. And now we're just waiting. Stand by. All right, hold on. We're going to end up doing a whole show on Viral Hog and the reality of who they are. So let me do this. It'll pause for a second. Just stand by. All right, we're back up on Facebook. And we're back up on Facebook. And we're back up on Twitter. And we're back up on YouTube. Awesome. Okay, so as you all saw there, what happened, and I'm going to give everybody on Facebook a second to re-add. So stand by if you're on. I'm sorry to do this 2 nights in a row, folks. Last week we just got booted for I don't know why, but let's give Facebook a chance to reacquire. Let's see here. Stand by 1 second here. I just got to re-add these. Make sure you're sharing this one as you're getting back on. Make sure that you share it, and I'll tell you what happened. So stand by. Let me just re-add these things here. Repopulate it. Man, the numbers are good on... unfortunately, the numbers are good on Twitter tonight. Don't go anywhere. Retweet this if you can, because you'll get the whole show on Twitter and Facebook. So don't worry, it's not going... the whole show does exist. It's just not going to exist on Facebook. It got split up in 2 different things here. So basically, here's what happened, folks, just now. So, and I'm being told that they only got partial plates to this car. Okay, so if you were watching just a second ago, I played a video. First, I was showing you this picture that I took in Times Square of this vehicle right here that was parked there today. Okay, I was just talking about this in case you're just now joining us. This blue truck was parked in Times Square. Second time I've seen something like this in 13 years where cops are all over the place. Nobody's doing anything about it. I called 911 3 times. All 3 times, nobody could help me. They transferred me to non-emergency agencies who hung up on me. And so that's why I'm on this kick right here talking about this. Then a friend of mine sent me a video today. You may have seen it. I'm not going to play any of it. This, there was a car that was doing a burnout today, and I'm not going to play any more of it than that because Viral Hog will block me is what will happen. They have some kind of ancestral relationship with Facebook, and what happens if they somehow get the rights to this stuff, they've tried to do it to my show where they come in and try to bully you by saying that I used the sound of the wind that was theirs, that they own the rights to before. I don't know if you remember last year when this was all going on. And so they kept blocking my show. Well, what they do is they have an algorithm or they have people watching, I don't know, and they immediately send up a message to Facebook saying that that I'm using their material. In this case, they must have the rights to this video, but somebody sent this to me on my phone that happens to be a cop in New York City. So I'm not sure where they got it, but somehow it ended as soon as I put that on, Viral Hog made the complaint and Facebook pulled the show down. So which is great that it happened because it's going to lead me into my next thing when we talk about the reality of who the big brother actually is. So thanks, Viral Hog, because you're a perfect example of what we're talking about, the seedy underbelly of these tech gurus in Silicon Valley, or in this case, I think Viral Hog is in, I forget, Montana, I believe, is where Viral Hog is at. So it's very interesting that it constantly, they've got some kind of weird relationship, and they bully people. They try to intimidate people. They threatened me with a lawsuit if I didn't take certain things down because I was complaining about Viral Hog. So, look, this is what they do. I've been a victim of Viral Hog, and here we are victimized again. So anyway, that car that was, which I'll give you the, I guess you can go on Facebook probably and see the picture. You can just look up Times Square and speeding car. They were doing burnouts there. The cop got in front of them and tried to stop them. And see, I think if a car is doing that, and the cop should not put himself at risk by standing in front of the car. That car could have ran straight over him. He should have just shot the people in the car. You don't go through Times Square peeling out, roasting your tires, revving your engine, you're in an area that's as dangerous, the reality is just as dangerous as if you were to cross into Area 51 or any other place that's protected by law enforcement. It's a place where terrorist activities happen. Try going and driving a car into where the World Trade Center, well, I don't know, the same thing may happen. I don't know. Who knows? They may not. It's a policy of do not shoot, I guess. So anyway, so that happened the other night. The car got away. Apparently, according to my source, they only got partial plates. That means that car is gone in the wind. And at the same time, this vehicle that I was talking about today, right here, was parked in Times Square, and I couldn't get a hold of the cops to get it out of there. Ridiculous. Awareness is at an all-time low when it comes to, I think it has to do with the fact that these cops are there on a daily basis, and I think it also has to do with the fact that the mayor has systematically destroyed the morale in the NYPD. And that's what you get in New York when you elect a communist person as mayor twice in a row. So, interesting. What I was going to say before I got kicked off because of Viral Hog is that everybody always complains about Big Brother. Like, you know, they think 1984 and the government's going to do this, the government's going to do that, that the government is watching. And then so when the Patriot Act came out, everybody was up in arms because they felt like the government was spying on the people. I have no doubt that in certain cases the government is spying on the people. I have no doubt that the NSA was utilizing data that is basically open source, really, to spy on the American people. But I don't disagree with the fact that they should not be spying on the American people. They shouldn't be accessing phones and their cameras and their microphones and listening in on people. When somebody like Yahoo or Google transfers your emails to an offshore server so they can store that stuff there, the government then says it's no longer an American, it's no longer considered, your emails are no longer considered a domestic email. Now that it's being stored over there, then they access it through all their wizardry. The reality is, though, folks, when they took away a lot of that stuff, and I doubt they really did, but they took away a lot of this stuff from the government, the reality is the real fear here is, for me, are these immoral tech giants. You know, Facebook, for instance, as the people from Twitter just said, these aren't my words. Look, go watch the Project Veritas videos where Project Veritas is keeping all your direct messages. Not just keeping them, they're monitoring them. So you could be having a private conversation with somebody on Twitter. They're monitoring all that stuff, and they're keeping it. Not just monitoring it, they're keeping it. And then they're selling that to advertisers. And the guy from Twitter said, if you watch the Project Veritas video, he said that they're not even close to being as nefarious or nasty, I don't remember the words that he used, as Google and Facebook. So that should scare you tremendously, because there are no, they're not the government. They're private entities, and they're the ones who create the tech, which means they're miles ahead of the government in their technological advances. In fact, the government looks to them to help them advance. It's not like it used to be back in the day where government, you know, made the best planes and did all. And now the tech giants, the military industrial complex, they make the stuff, they sell it to the government. And the reality is we're in a bad way that these people, and I don't doubt that this is happening and going to happen more. People could have had private conversations. They could have shared private pictures with one another, not just on Twitter, but on, and I recommend that you do not use Facebook Messenger. I rarely ever check it. People send me messages on Messenger, and every once in a while I go on there and I'll check it, but I don't respond to most stuff on Messenger because I don't trust Facebook, just like I don't trust Twitter, just like I don't trust Google. And so what we're looking at here are people who are collecting information. Not only can they sell it to advertisers and build an overall, listen, you got to remember, you go and Google something, you go and watch something on the internet, you go and email something or direct message somebody on one of these social media sites. You think that Snapchat takes your pictures and then deletes them. None of that is true. They watch all that stuff. They have, they know your tastes. They know where you go. They know what you do. They know how many times you go there. All this stuff. I would even go as far to say that, for instance, Google Maps, your iPhones, Samsungs, all these are doing the same thing. So they can access all this stuff, and then they put and compile together a profile of who you are, and they sell that to advertisers. That's why you end up getting advertising that you're like, that's weird. I was just talking about this, and I looked it up online. Now I'm getting advertisement about it. I told this story 2-3 weeks ago when I was sick. I was having a conversation with somebody about Vicks. I didn't look it up on my phone. I didn't Google it. I didn't do anything. I was just talking, and I had my phone sitting there. Next thing you know, I turn on the phone. I go to Instagram and scroll through, and there was an advertisement for Vicks. I saw it again one time. I haven't seen it since. Never saw it before. So you should be very afraid of tech giants and tech weasels like Viral Hog who interact and do this stuff, because you see, Viral Hog is very interesting because what they do is, another person was telling me this, Craig's an amazing guy. He went and did all this and actually confronted Viral Hog in their office, and was kind of started the road of them backing off a little bit from me with this sound of the wind complaints that they were making. But overall, Viral Hog, another person was telling me, they had a friend who had a car crash. They put the video of the car crash on Facebook, and then Viral Hog copied that and basically claimed ownership of that video, and then started intimidating the girl, saying that they own that video, when in fact it was her video. She shot it and she posted it. So Viral Hog is a company that uses almost mob-like tactics, and then if you go against them, they threaten you with a lawsuit. All this is true. It's happened to me. And the reality is that they work closely with Facebook because Facebook is all about the money and not about the people. That's long since gone, if it ever was, in fact, the case. So when we listen to what Project Veritas showed us about Twitter, according to Twitter, you can magnify that big time when it comes to Facebook and Google. This is where the real threat lies. Also, people were all up in arms about the Patriot Act and about what the government was collecting from your phones and the information like your toll records, and could you be followed and spied on through your phone. Listen, where do you think the government gets that information from? They get it from the phone companies. And how are they able to access it? Because the phone companies store that information. Yeah, that's right. The phone companies are the originators of the information that the government uses. Google, Facebook, Twitter, they are the originators of the information that the government was accessing. So these are the people, and there's nobody up in arms. Nobody's saying that this should be outlawed, that they shouldn't be able to access this information, your private messages. You know, legally, the government cannot listen in on a conversation that you're having in a phone booth. Remember the phone booths, right? Or if you're sitting in your car with the windows rolled up, the government cannot use a listening device to listen to what you're saying. Let's say get a warrant. They can't stand outside your car and use a high-powered microphone to listen into your car unless they get a warrant or put some type of a listening device on your car. You have a reasonable expectation of privacy inside your vehicle, inside a phone booth, and we would assume in our direct messages, but that is not the case. That is not the case. You would assume in your emails, but that is not the case. And so you would assume when it comes to your information on your phone, the FaceTime, the tweets, or excuse me, the text messages, but that evidently is most likely probably not the case. So the American people should start being very concerned. I would say even more concerned with the reality of these tech giants and what they're keeping and what they're doing and the nefarious actions that they're taking in order to collect your information, exploit your information, and in certain cases censor you because of your information. It should frighten you very, very badly. And as we see, they work fast. Like, let's say they work fast together. Let's say that I said something to, I don't know, somebody that's watching a show privately and they don't like it. It's going to take a while for anything to happen that way. But when Viral Hog, who is in cahoots with, sorry, Rico's getting up here. When they're in cahoots with Facebook, that quick, their video's up there. They have an algorithm that's going, and they've laid claim to that video. I don't know how they lay claim to it. I don't know the legal things. They may have done what they did to my friend who had the girl that made their own video that I was talking about a second ago of a car crash, and then Viral Hog tried to steal it and intimidate her. That may have happened in this case. I don't know, but they have the power to go to Facebook and say, we want this pulled down, and Facebook will pull it down. So very interesting. What I may do is see if I can pull that video down. I'll crop that out and replay it tonight on Facebook so it populates. I don't know if that'll do any good or not. I don't know. And maybe just move on until tomorrow. So anyway, long story short, you should be very concerned about these different tech giants, sleazy tech companies like Viral Hog, and these very, very rich and powerful individuals like the owner of Amazon, like Zuckerberg at Facebook, and all the rest of these people. There's some strange stuff going on. It's unethical, and as we can see, they don't consider your privacy whatsoever. The American people need to stand up and band together and get really, really pissed about this and do something about it, because it's scary. It's scary because you have virtually no privacy, and no, according to them, no expectation of privacy, even in your own home. And I believe that's wrong. So let's go to, I was on the A block. Let's go, actually, you know what? Let's go to the truth zone. I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to talk about Martin Luther King as I close it out. And then we'll pick this up tomorrow. We'll talk about maybe some more of this stuff, but I guess I need to check out when somebody sends me a video to make sure that it's not something that's going to get me kicked off. But no fault of the person that sent this to me. I'm glad she sent it to me. Let's do the Truth Zone. All right, Martin Luther King. You know, you could do a whole documentary about Martin Luther King and his life and the things he stood for. I think he was, man, I wish he was alive today doing what he was doing today. Although we couldn't get to where we were without Martin Luther King in his day and age when he lived. He took, the thing about what Martin Luther King did was he stood in the face of people who had clear prejudice, who saw people that had dark skin as being less of a human being. And he stood directly there in front of them, saying that he himself would not judge a man by the color of his skin, but by the content of their character. And he challenged people. He's arrested over, I don't know, it's like 29 times for civil disobedience. But his civil disobedience was where he went and stood with people of all color, of all races, of all genders, and he stood with them or sat with them in peace. They were hit with water cannons, bit by dogs, arrested. But the fact is, what he did, and the fact that he did it in peace, actually created a peaceful movement. A movement that led people from judging others by the color of their skin. Because of Martin Luther King, people began to see the ridiculousness of, you can't judge a person who is sitting there peacefully asking for equality, and not equality as in give us a fair shake of everything, but judge me on the same bounds as a man who has lighter skin, or judge this woman the same as that man based on the quality of their actions. And he was able to sit there, and you cannot oppress continuously a person who shows up in a peaceful manner. It's virtually impossible. peaceful confrontation, educated confrontation, showing up and saying, I don't judge you. What I ask is that we be judged on the same standards for the same reasons. That is true equality. Not, I want the same amount of money as you and I want you to give me the same job title and I want you to... No. Martin Luther King showed up and said, I want to be looked upon and judged for the same characteristics, which is moral and ethics, the content of character, not the color of skin. That's why he succeeded. That's why the United States shifted. But unfortunately, what you see now in the media are people like Don Lemon, who has dark skin, Charles Blow, who has dark skin, but then you also see other people from CNN who don't have, MSNBC, some of the nastiest people in media on there who don't have dark skin, men and women. And what are they doing? They're leftist. And what they are doing is they are trying to force you to look at people and say the color of your skin is what determines whether or not you're equal. The color of your skin is why you should look at somebody and say they should be equal or they should have this much more because there's less of them than there are people with this color skin. Martin Luther King would have never stood for that because Martin Luther King was a conservative individual who was a realist, who cared about people and looked for an effective solution, which you are not getting from politicians and people in the media, from activists and educators and the rest of them. I'm Jonathan Gillum. Rico's over there. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. And folks, let me just tell you, I am proud to have lived in a country, being born in a country where people like Martin Luther King exist. And we should thank the dear Lord above, not only for his son Jesus, who came down to die for our sins, but for individuals like Martin Luther King, who came down and attempted to press upon us, and in many ways succeeded, press upon us to look at the character of a man, not at the color of the skin, not at the gender, not at the sexuality. And I challenge you, if you do that, when you turn the television on, you will see the reality of what these people are saying, whether they be the media, the activists, or the politicians. And when they're screaming unfairness, you will be able to look and see the reality that their character is either criminal, unethical, nefarious, or they're just simply lying. They are the quintessential divisive, subversive operatives. And if you look at the character instead of the color, instead of even the message that they're saying, look at the content of the character. Do they seek out whether or not Donald Trump said something for real, or they just allow one person to say it and then they run with it and say that's the truth, and then they spread it and call the man a racist when they don't know? They don't know the truth. They weren't in the room. There's no facts except for the fact that Dick Durbin has done this stuff before, and he's a liar, and he comes from one of the most crooked states in our union, Illinois. Listen to what Martin Luther King Jr. said. Let his words be your guide. Martin Luther King's guide was the Lord Jesus and the God that created him and created us. Let that be your guide. Not the narrative that comes out of the media on a daily basis. Not the narrative that comes out of the Washington, D.C. cesspool. Look at the content. Look at the character of Martin Luther King. Look at how he approached the problem of racism and oppression and mimic that. And look at the people that are the activists, that are in the media, that are in Washington, D.C. And if they don't mimic that, if they're not looking to unite, if they're saying something is a truth but they don't give you the proof of it and they expect you to go out and spread it, if they tell you that you should look at them and judge them based on the color of their skin, and you should give them more simply because of the color of their skin or their sexuality or their gender, you will know that their character is not worth the ground that they will go back into once they die and their bodies rot. I'll see you tomorrow on The Experts. I'm Jonathan Gillum. The truth has arrived. If you're watching this, make sure by tomorrow you reach out to at least 10 people via email, direct message, let Twitter know this, tweet it, Facebook, at least 10 people that they should go buy Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. And as always, don't forget about the GoFundMe page, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. We are on the move, folks. This show is growing. Tell people about it. Tell them about the book. Spread the word. The truth has arrived. The CQRF is growing, and we are going to be a force that has a stronger lobby than any other political force out there. Why? I'll tell you why. Because we are the people, and the people will not be denied. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.